I spent a couple hours yesterday working on the email blast, email send out. The first series of episodes launched today, which is exciting. So yesterday I was on with my editor and working on getting that out for a couple hours. Ate a few meals, recorded myself eating for the first time, which was a little strange. There's still just having a camera around a lot, or remembering to turn the camera on or get certain angles. Sometimes I'm getting used to it and it's as if no one's watching, but then there's sometimes where I am very aware that it's being watched, and that's a little weird. A little weird still. I did some ecstatic dance last night, just some dancing around. And I was aware of the camera. So I danced with that a little bit. Did some push-ups yesterday. Did a little bit of kind of a more active mobility beforehand. I liked it. I'm going to have to get into it a little bit more. Yeah, just trying to maintain a balance while I'm playing the game of presence so much. Still make sure that I get my exercise in, my meals in. Went on a walk. Got some footage of that. Just a little bit of the different places that I go. I had a bit of toying with madness is what I'll call it yesterday. But in the sense of what would it be like to not have any fear? How would I act differently? What would I say that I don't say? What do I do that I don't do? Or vice versa. But it's more the what would I do that I don't do? Back in high school when I used to drink a lot, it would pull down those fears. It would pull down those inhibitions. And I would say what was on my mind with a lot less fear of how it would be received. And there's times where it wasn't great, but then there's times where it was, and it was charming, and it was freeing, and it was, whatever. So I was playing with that yesterday, just playing with, in some ways, the freedom of madness, the freedom of people have already written you off. They think you're crazy. And in some ways you are. But depending, it's case by case. There's a lot of psychological disorders that are very not freeing. But in some ways, playing with just like, what would it be like to have no social restrictions? And not in a way where like I do whatever I want in a harmful way. I always try to be guided by without causing abuse or undue suffering. But just to be free to be completely real. I played with it and it felt really good. Yeah, I would imagine we'd live in a much different world if everyone was just honest. I think that's one of the things in the spiritual community that I both value and I judge. That there is a striving to evolve, to reach a more blossomed state of ourselves, which is amazing. But in some ways too, it's so often we try to do it like like the right way or by the book, or it just depends on how someone learns. That can become a mask. It can become its own avoidance pattern or coping mechanism, often referred to as spiritual bypassing, where I'm trying to follow this way so much that I wind up bypassing maybe certain elements of human life that I actually need to face, that I need to be in connection with, whether that be emotional response or turbulent relationships that I still need to kind of work through or whatever. Yeah, just reaching a freedom. Freedom to, I don't know, tell people they're beautiful, tell them they're gorgeous. But also without that being a come on, right? Just telling people like, hey, I think you're beautiful. Period. Doesn't mean I want to have sex with you. Doesn't mean I don't want to have sex with you. But just having it be just a pure expression of the moment. Telling people like, hey, I don't like how you're showing up right now. You're being a dick. Or, man, there's so many things. I was in a men's group led by a guy named David Sutcliffe. And it was core energetics and somatic psychotherapy, but we did a lot of it online. So essentially what it was is every 2 weeks for 90 minutes, 2 hours, I actually don't remember, about 5 or 6 of us would get on Zoom. And really the game was speak your mind completely. It was kind of what I'm talking about. It was like lean into your madness a little bit, lean into not having a filter. With the understanding that we're doing this to come into contact with our truth and to heal the parts of ourselves that don't know how to do that in a present way. And so David would facilitate, if someone were to come into contact with something very painful or be triggered by someone else saying something, we'd kind of pause and we'd go in there and we'd find out like, hey, is this something new to you? Is this an old pattern? Where did it come from? How does that feel? And really understand like, oh my gosh, so much of the way I speak, the way I show up is adaptive mechanisms from early on in life that were just programmed in. And there were times where it got very intense, times where guys were yelling at each other or just being mean, just straight up mean. Times where I got my cage rattled, showing up with masks. One of the things that I have over time, one of my adaptive mechanisms, one of my coping mechanisms is controlling how people perceive me. That if I can come off in a certain way and impact how you perceive me, then I will be safe, right? Then I will be looked at the way I want to be looked at, the way that makes me feel good about myself, or the way that makes me valuable to you, or whatever. That's not uncommon, but it's often not completely authentic. It's even if there's authenticity within it, it's not completely authentic. And so I showed up in that group with that pattern and I was quickly called on it. And it was very painful, but also freeing. And I guess full circling to all of this is like in these videos, how can I show up knowing that pattern is running? It's running right now. I am aware that I, on some level, am aware of the viewer. I'm on some level aware of being perceived in any specific way. And it's like, oh, I don't want to be written off. I don't want people to stop watching. I don't want people to Leave me. There's a deep fear in there. One of the things that I've talked about in these videos a couple times that it's started to come up is that in the back of my heart, there's this terror, this panic that is coming in from the no way out experience of this space that I'm in. And there's a fear of, like, it gets so intense that, like, I understand how animals can die from fright. There's just this, like, oh, my nervous system becomes overwhelmed. And in the panic, it starts to shut down. And so I've been as gentle about that as I can be. But one of my fears is like, well, shit, what happens if that comes on full-fledged and I fall into it? There's all sorts of scenarios that could happen, right? It could be, I could finally face the thing that I've been carrying for my entire life, and it could be deeply freeing. And then I come out the other side free of caring what people think about me, or free of being controlled by this deeper panic or fear or whatever, right? There's a very beautiful potential. But there's also the, what if this just fucks me up? What if this just breaks me psychologically and I have to go to a psych ward? And then and then how will I be perceived? Oh, Harry's just been crazy this whole time. Yeah, it's almost like I can't help it. There's a part of me that can't help but being conscious of how I'm perceived and worried about it, or in a slight state of tension around it. And it definitely, it shows up in different parts of my body. I can feel it right now. It's in my neck, my shoulders. It's coming down the back part of my heart, my gut. It's a lot of places right now, actually. I've been trying to trust it. I've been leaning into trusting the part of myself that doesn't trust. I've been leaning into trusting the part of myself that is not ready to let go of that completely, or even mostly yet. I've done a lot of work on it over the years. It's still there and it's still strong. Can I trust that? Can I trust that it might just not be ready to let go, or that there's a wisdom to not trusting certain things? And I definitely think that that's true. There's also a care in it. There's a care. Like, I care about people. I care about how I impact others. On some levels, I think not caring about what people think about me is amazing and liberating. But on another level, I want to care. I want to care about people. I want to care about how I impact them, and if I'm doing it in a way that's healthy for them, for myself. That's what I was with yesterday. That's what I'm now with right now again.